All right, so I just want to take a chance to run through some of the functions that we just saw in Matplotlib and actually run them in a notebook and also in Ipython, and also run them through a script just to get a sense for the workflows. I tend to do a lot of exploration in notebooks and then kind of finalize things into scripts. You can do exploration in Ipython and finalize things into scripts, whatever works for you. But here's just a few examples of how this works with Matplotlib. So the basic code here, you can import Matplotlib and set the backend. We talked about this a little bit. You can also have it display inline, right? So that's generally what I like to do in Jupyter, and I think that's one of the really powerful things is that you can go ahead and display graphics inline. So regardless of what you do, what I want to point out is it'll display kind of a PNG image of the graphic. So it's kind of a low resolution rendering of the graphic itself. If you want to save it, you still can. You can still run savefig and save a vector graphic if you want, but it will still show this version. So you can still save it. Just the fact that it's showing it didn't actually close it, which is a slight difference from the Ipython notebook. So if and of course if you want, you can dive in and look at it's just displaying an image, which to keep things reasonable in the notebooks themselves is just as big as it needs to be. So that's what we got. Changing the DPI settings or anything really keeps it the same in here. So this code works well in Jupyter. If we want to go ahead and run that in Ipython, we can go ahead and fire up an Ipython shell, and here we're in 3.5, and we can go ahead and run all of that code, right? So we can see that running all of that gave us an error. So the GUI request of inline does not work with Ipython. So that's actually not going to be an option for us. So what we can do is go ahead and run it without that. So we'll import Matplotlib as plot, right? So really just do the basics here. Import Matplotlib to plot, and we'll grab numpy as well. And then we can go ahead and make that same plot. In Ipython, the difference is we don't see that plot, right? So it's been made. We can go ahead and look at it, but we have to run plot.show, right? And that actually gives us Matplotlib's interactive viewer here. So there are interactive graphics built in. We can go ahead and actually pan around here. We can also zoom on these graphics or zoom to a region of them. And then we can actually save it right from this GUI interface. So a lot of power there. If we go ahead and close it, we're left back at the interface here for Ipython. So one thing, that actually erased the figure. So if we were to go ahead and save this, right, if we saved, a test.png image, and we just opened test.png, I thought that would work through Matplotlib. We can just go ahead and open test.png. There's actually nothing there because by showing it first, it actually closed it. It actually cleared the graphic. So we'd have to go ahead and make the plot, and then go ahead and do the savefig, right? And then if we go ahead and open it, the plot will be there. And you can see it saved it with the default, all the default settings. So that's one way to run it is through Ipython, and you can go ahead and save things and work interactively. The final way to work is through using scripts, and this is kind of the final way that I like to do it. So we can take that code and just run it in an actual script file. So if we fire up Emacs, and we can go ahead and open a file and run with that. What I actually want to show quickly first is some code that I use to save fig. So you can modify functions for yourself that you find useful, and this is one that I just tend to find useful. So in Kitchen Table, I keep functions that I use, and one of these is my savefig. So often in savefig, there's some settings that I generally like to use. So my savefig will go ahead and call savefig with some settings like particularly bounding box inches equals tight, which will remove the white space around that figure. For example, we could actually look at what that does. I'll save you the trouble, but it crops out the white space, which is generally pretty nice. And the other thing that I like to do when I'm saving figures is save the date before them, so that if you're making a bunch of versions, you can go ahead and see all the versions that you made. So this will prepend the date stamp, ISO date stamp down to the minute at the beginning of any file name that you pass in. And so this is just a wrapper around the savefig. And you can go ahead and PDF crop it as well. What this will do generally is it'll save the fig and then open it. So it actually will run call from subprocess to just open the generated figure. So that's one way to do it. And if we want to actually open up a script and just run that same code, we could do that as well. So if we wanted to go and generate test.png with a script, we could go ahead and do that, right? So we'll just do npl basics.py, right? And what we could do is, really just have the same code as here. So we just want pyplot numpy, and then we can make our simple plot. And like we did in Ipython, we can go ahead and save the test, right? So this will go ahead and generate that test figure, right? And we could go ahead and open it if we wanted to. So that's the other thing that I like to do with subprocess, right? But we can go ahead and just run this npl basic, and that'll generate the figure for us. And we can go ahead and open test2, right? And that'll be the same figure that we had. If you want to add tools from the tools directory, generally I do that by adding that to the system path. A lot of people don't like to append to their path, but that's one way to do it, right? So that's how I generally do it. And that path is users for me, users Andy Reagan, tools, and then this is going to be kitchen table, and then I keep them in the dog toys, from dog toys import star, right? So this, and then we can go ahead and just use our own function, right? So savefig is going to go ahead and run and open that, right? And so it went ahead and cropped it. You can actually see the difference here of the bounding box removals.